If you haven't heard yet, write this down. On May 25th, 2025, the 8th season of Rick and Morty will premiere. Recently, to build hype for this new season, Tutswin released a trailer packed with information and some pretty crazy stuff. So, in this video, I'm going to break down this trailer to analyze everything that was shown and discuss some possibilities of what might happen. So, if you love Rick and Morty, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because this year we'll have a lot of videos about the show. The trailer begins by showing Rick's ship heading towards some yellow planet. We can't be sure what planet this is. At least, I don't remember seeing this planet before. But since it's the opening of the trailer, it must be an important place. Then, we see what looks like a desert with some wreckage, but not just any wreckage. This is from the Citadel of Rick's, or at least what's left of it after evil Morty blew everything up. Check this out. If you look closely, the wreckage seems to be from this part of the city, the same part that Rick and Morty used to escape. So, I believe that in this 8th season, we'll have an episode about the survivors of the Citadel. And this theory gets even stronger with a few other scenes in the trailer, like this one, where we can see several Ricks and Mortys in a Wild West version. At least that's what it reminded me of. We also have this scene where Morty is playing some sort of signal to warn the Ricks about an invasion by another Rick, and this other scene with a Colonel Rick, who will probably be the new boss of the Citadel or whatever this new society is called. One possibility that crossed my mind is that these survivors of the Citadel had to start a new society from scratch, and since they were in an arid climate, they ended up adopting this Wild West aesthetic. Could I be wrong? Sure. But tell me, do you think there's any chance I might be right, or did I go too far with this one? Moving on in the trailer, next we see what looks like an underwater fortress. We can't know much about it, but apparently it's not on Earth because look at the fish surrounding it. To me, it all looks extraterrestrial. Also, this place has weapons, so it must be protecting something. But we can't be sure of anything. After that, we saw a scene of a planet with an aesthetic that strongly resembles gambling. So, I think it must be a casino planet. And in other scenes in the trailer, we see Rick and Morty running away from a giant ship. If you pay attention to the buildings around, they all seem to be related to gambling. So, for sure, Rick and Morty are going to cause some trouble on this casino planet and end up being chased. Oh, and in the middle of the escape, they end up entering some sort of space barn and running over a bunch of chickens. And since in all of these scenes they're wearing the same outfits, it's likely that all of these moments are from the same episode. Next, we had a part where it seemed like Rick was downloading information into Morty or Summer's mind, since they were yelling with the device connected to their heads. So, that seems more likely to me. In another scene, in the background, we can see that same machine to which Morty and Summer were connected. But here, Rick gets shocked and passes out on top of it. And that same machine appears in another scene where we see Beth chasing Summer with a device that looks a lot like the one Rick uses to erase memories, which only adds to my theory that Rick was implanting information into his grandchildren's minds for some reason we don't know yet. Then we arrive at this scene with Knights fighting Rick. And I'm going to stretch this part a bit because over on Adult Swim's official channel, they released a snippet of this very episode, where, combining with this part of the trailer, we get information about an episode focused on Easter. Everything suggests that in this episode, Rick and Morty will visit a planet that worshipped the Easter Bunny. And, for some reason, there will be a planet and a society dedicated to an Earth holiday. But after scanning the egg, Rick solves the riddle and obtains parts of an alien Easter egg. And here it's worth noting that Easter egg in English refers to hidden details in movies and series. So, I believe there's a good chance this episode will show Rick and Morty going around looking for hidden pieces to complete this Easter egg. Because if you look closely, in this scene the egg is missing parts. And later in the trailer, we see the egg complete. Adult Swim's channel also released another snippet of this same episode, where we see Jerry very excited about Easter, but no one in the family wanted to celebrate with him. And in the trailer, we had a scene of Jerry eating cabbage, which to me strongly resembles a rabbit. One idea that crossed my mind is that Jerry might be turning into a rabbit, maybe even the Easter Bunny. And to cure him, Rick and Morty were probably looking for this egg to get more information. And if you want an even crazier and wilder theory, maybe the Easter Bunny in the Rick and Morty universe is a werewolf-like creature that ended up infecting Jerry. I know this last possibility is very far-fetched, but I thought it would be cool to share it with you guys, because who knows, right? Also, we saw a scene of Jerry frozen in the kitchen, and I think Rick might have done that to stop his transformation into a rabbit. Or maybe it's for some other reason. We can't know for sure yet. Moving on with the trailer, we saw a scene of Rick and Morty fighting to build a death race car. And then we had a scene of an armored car coming out of the water and attacking some soldiers. So, maybe this is the death car, built by Rick and Morty. And, judging by what the trailer showed, we'll also have an adventure episode with Rick and Becca, because we saw several scenes of the two of them together fighting what seems to be the Galactic Federation. First, we see them in some sort of lab with a monster escaping from a cage, and later, to get rid of these monsters, a scientist throws everyone into space. But then, Rick uses his portal gun to get back into the lab. And if you look closely, in the background of this scene, there are some bubbles that, to me, suggest viruses. This is because all the aliens in the lab are wearing masks, which isn't normal for them. In fact, later in the trailer, we see Beth sick, so she might have contracted some kind of space virus, and Rick was trying to help her. Or she might have caught the virus during this adventure, since we also saw a scene of her, apparently healthy, fighting those creatures that had escaped the cage. And if you look closely, when she kills these creatures, some red smoke with particles comes out of them. So, it could have been there that she got infected with the virus. But going back to that Easter episode, because we got a lot of info about that episode, the Knights will be the enemies in that episode, and it looks like they will be space Christians. At least that's how Rick referred to them, because of their clothing and the cross-shaped weapon they carry. But the fact is that this group is after the Easter Bunny, which is somehow linked to Rick and Morty. And in the trailer, we had a scene of Rick and Morty fighting these Knights in a place full of planet holograms. Finally, we saw the complete Easter egg. But then Rick's portal gun was destroyed, and the trailer ended with him and Morty falling into some sort of square portal. And on the walls of the portal, we can see some figures that I couldn't quite identify. They look like robots, but they are pointy and have a judge's hand. So I have no idea what that could be. But anyway, the fact is that this portal is not normal, as it completely distorted Rick and Morty as soon as they entered. And as I said, the trailer ends with this scene. So, to be sure of anything, we'll have to watch the new season of Rick and Morty. So, if you understood something different from what I said or thought of possibilities I didn't mention, drop them in the comments because I really want to know. And when this new season ends, feel free to come back to this video and call me out if I was wrong about anything, or congratulate me if I got it right? But if you liked the video, check out this other one. Hurry up and watch it, because it's totally crazy. And make sure to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends.